We are here this afternoon to hear from Cale Hall about not just the past life and times of Cale Hall, but his next 50 years, which are coming up very, very soon. We're recording this so that you can view him in perpetuity on his new website, CaleRobertHall.com. And I would say this is just the beginning. You can also see him on Facebook, but this is really pretty serious because it's going on to his website. This is Miriam Sharp. I am the founder of Interview, spelled INTRVUU. Cale has agreed to be actually my inaugural client for this service. And I'm delighted because I couldn't find a more vibrant and exciting and accomplished person to come into our service at this point of our birth, I guess you might say. I asked Cale to think about a few things before we got started. And I said, what are the 3 or 4 key aspects that you would like to talk about and you think others would like to hear about concerning you, Cale, and I've added going forward for the next 50 years. We're going to be addressing he's going to be addressing his personal mission statement, leadership, which is a huge part of what he has studied and taught and practices. Another category called holistic, looking forward to that one. And then the question, why now? Why is he doing what he's doing now? And why is he seeking to record it? So, Cale.
Yes.
Your personal mission statement. That's a pretty big one to grasp. Tell us about it, please.
Yeah. When I moved to Atlanta, I felt like a tiny fish in this giant pond. And I found refuge. I don't know if you've heard of Jack Canfield, but I took one of his courses, and one of the courses was to create your own mission statement. And when you find your mission statement in your new atmosphere or territory or demographic that you've just moved into, it should help you acclimate to your surroundings. So when I got up here, I thought, I've had Savannah under my belt for 44 years. What's going on with me? So my mission statement I came up with is to provide a safe environment that fosters creativity while helping others see and achieve their potential by giving back and opening doors that are otherwise left unopened. That's my mission statement. That's what I came up with. Part of my story is that I was adopted and I was given a second chance. I was adopted at age 4. And I've always looked at that as, okay, people wanted me. They took me out of a situation and wanted me to succeed. And so I was given this chance, and I've always thought, I want to give that chance to others in one way or the other. And so that's where my mission statement came in. And I've been able to actually fulfill that in Atlanta, and now I can see it realized more in Savannah now. Sometimes you have to leave the forest in order to see what's going on. And I can appreciate that. But I was just so entrenched in it there at the time that I didn't see that.
Is there anything you want to say about your past that you remember specifically? I mean, that's a pretty big event to have been adopted.
That is part of the points that I was talking about that you listed, why now and all that is, I have been working on trying to figure out what happened those first 4 years. It's been quite the discovery. I seem to, like many others that have had a trauma in their childhood, I have compartmentalized things very nicely, and they don't easily come out. But what I do know is that I sat on a judge's lap when I was 4 years old. I do remember that. And I still had the little corduroy pants. And I remember the judge asking me, what do you want to do? And I remember telling the judge, I want to go with Bob and Grace, because I didn't know the term mom and dad at the time. I knew their names were Bob and Grace, and I knew that they were safety at that point. And so after that, I went home with Bob and Grace. It wasn't till I was about 8 years old that I finally got into calling them Mama and Daddy, because they had no children, and if you don't hear it, you don't say it. So, but that's what got me into, okay, something about you is special. Something, God has put you here for a reason, and you need to pay that forward. And
Well,
so,
that's interesting. In your mission statement, which I have the pleasure of seeing in print here, and I'm sure you'll have that on your website, provide a safe environment.
mhm,
I was thinking, oh, well, it's like a switch. Oh, all of a sudden you say to somebody, it's safe, go through this door, that's fine.
mhm.
But you've had this unique experience of having to determine over some years whether or not an environment was safe or not. Let's take that into your adult life a bit, where you have tried to create a safe environment for other people, whether it's fostering creativity, or probably number one, just feeling safe enough to do anything in it. Can you think of some experiences where this patience and experience that you have came into play?
Yeah, first instance I can see when I was, many people, I have several businesses and we have Club One. And in the 80s, that was a safe space for LGBTQ people. That was the first instance of me seeing, and I mean, there was already a community there, but even in that community, there's issues with differences. I mean, you know how it is with everybody. It's just strange. But we seem to be able to turn that safe space into a safe space for everyone, transgender, bisexuals, homosexual, lesbian, gay, the whole thing. Now things are different, and people coming up nowadays don't quite understand that. But that was the only place safe for people to congregate, to talk about politics, to talk about anything, and just be themselves. And that was the first instance where I realized this is comfortable. This is what I want to do. And then it moved into, okay, I grew up a bit, and I'm a late bloomer. I didn't go to college till I turned 31. And when I was 33, my junior year in college, Creative Approach came about as a college project. And that in itself was a place where there were so many creatives that hadn't gone to school yet, that couldn't go to school. Their parents had thrown them out, or they were in the bar community. And so this was a safe place to come and hone your skills and learn, and hopefully get to that point where where you wanted to be. And I've always looked at Creative Approach as that place for creatives to be able to spread their wings and fly.
I didn't know there was such a connection between that and then the Creative Approach. It was a natural, because we're in the Savannah College of Art and Design community, but you looked at your clients as creatives, and part of your mission statement is to help them achieve their potential. How did that weave into what you've been doing?
Well, many of the bartenders we had were SCAD students. Some of them were SCAD students and that maybe drank too much. SCAD let them go. Parents let them go, this, that, and the other. And it just seemed, and then of course, at that point in time, downtown Savannah didn't have very many printing places, and we would drive to the south side to Kinko's or do Savannah Blueprint or this, that, and the other. And there was nothing really there for creatives to be able to sit at a work table, sit at a place and just collaborate and be creative without being in the school atmosphere. And we all know how much SCAD costs. And we all know that there's not really, there are places now, but there weren't then. back in the early 2000s for that. And it just seemed right to put that together in the downtown area. We never in our wildest dreams thought it would grow as big as it did, but we really enjoy it. Your son actually was one of my first customers. So.
Right. I remember that. Part of the many thousands of dollars that
Yeah.
you had. I think you got a few of them.
And we thank you for that.
Our pleasure. But you also, part of your statement here is that in giving back, and I can't tell you how many times, you probably remember, I've sent the nonprofits that I work with over to you to get a discount or some kind of consideration. How did that figure into what you have done?
Well, that goes back to my early years. I was 19 years old at Club One, and that was 1989. And the AIDS epidemic was just out of control. And we were approached by Union Mission at the time, and they were putting together an AIDS walk. And it was such a beautiful thing, because what was happening there in the late 80s, early 90s, is they were getting second graders out of the public school system to come and walk and march and raise money for these dying people with AIDS. And the walk would start over in Franklin Square, go around downtown, and end at Club One, where we would show off these second graders' artwork in the daytime and serve them lunch. And that there was such hatred and such stigma with AIDS back then, and there still is. But that put a hope in me that, my Lord, just these little gestures, these little moments of learning, these kids grow up. Those kids probably have families now, and they have a different outlook on that. And so that was the beginning of me looking at community and our responsibility, our corporate social responsibility in the community to build goodwill and to educate people where they're not being educated. And so that one instance, we did that till 95, and then things kind of dissolved because of drug therapy and all that. But we went from that to the American Cancer Society, to the Diabetes Association, to you name it, we've worked with it. And now we've got this arm of Creative Approach called Creative Cares. And what we do is donate a portion of all revenue to a nonprofit each quarter. And so that's going on really well. We've done that for the past 6 years now. And it's very important to build where you live. I'm a firm believer in that.
Yeah, and you have, I mean, having been in Savannah 15 years myself, I can't think of it without a creative approach. And now you're up in Atlanta too, with an outsized footprint for who you are. It's just great, you know. Whole Foods, watch out. Pretty soon they're going to be selling food too.
I'm after them. I tell you what.
Well, I'm going to transition over here to one of your other key aspects of Cale, which is leadership. Okay. And with that, I can't wait to get to the topic of your many educations. Is that a phrase? Your many educations, where it seems like you have been simultaneously learning and leading, because you've been learning, you've been getting your degrees, but you've also been an active professor and teacher. What is leadership to you?
Helping people realize their potential to the best of their potential. That's leadership to me. Whether it's the same common goal in the businesses or what have you, or if it's just mentoring people to realize their dreams. I didn't realize at the time, when you say that many educations, it's interesting how that worked out, because I started out vanity, because everybody that I went to school with went straight to college, and I didn't. And here I'm 31. Not only have they gone to college, they've got children and all that. So I went to South University in Savannah, because it's the only school that worked night school, so I could do that and still do the businesses. And I got there and realized, oh, I've been doing this the whole time, because I majored in business administration. And so it just came naturally that way. And then it just came somewhat of an addiction, where it turned into MBA. Then through South, I started working at South after I received my MBA with marketing. And then South, a conglomerate bought them and had a school called Argosy. So I went and did my doctorate in business administration there. And then took a break and did the Atlanta store and really learned a lot about leadership at that time. When we first moved up here, we were broke into 3 times in a matter of 90 days.
Oh my.
And we could have easily packed up and left. The mayor reached out, Mayor Kasim Reed reached out specifically to me and asked what they could do to keep us here. And I said, I have no intention of leaving. This community needs us, and we will be here to help lead this community. And so, I don't know if I'm going off a tangent, but that's
No, keep going. This is exactly where you should be.
this. So I made a commitment then that, and that's when Creative Cares was actually formalized and born. That we will build community where we are, because I'm not mad at the people that broke into our stores. I'm mad at the system that got us here in the first place. And it has to do with education, and it has to do with, I mean, it's systemic. It starts from the ground up. And in order to fix it, you don't lash out at it. You get in it, you get your hands dirty. And that's leadership to me.
Well, that's an excellent way of summing up what could have been a negative experience, but you turned it into a positive. And so that's an aspect of leadership. In terms of your leadership style, how would you describe it? I think of you like a Pied Piper, which is a form of leadership. In other words, I've never worked directly for you or really seen you in direct action with your employees, but I would imagine you're the same Cale as we're seeing here today. Or do you have a different style, or do you change your styles? You know, it's very popular now to have situational leadership, which you know from your educations.
Right.
Right. So who is the Cale that we would see as a leader?
You're what you see is what you get. This is I do know that I'm very consistent, good or bad. It's consistent. It is what it is. It's funny that you say that. I have been referred to as a Pied Piper, carefree. I have 5 adjectives, and somebody told me I was unwavering, and I said, "So you mean I'm stubborn?" That's what that means.
No, but a Pied Piper, everybody followed him.
Correct, but there's always going to be issues. It's how you look at them. And there was an event, because I wasn't always the Pied Piper. I've always been a leader in a sense that I've told you about. There's times where I've cowered away and tried to let others lead because I wasn't sure of myself, or sure that it was going to be received well. But I've realized that you only live once, and if you can't change the things, if you can't change what you're looking at, change the way you look at it. And that's how I try to tell people when we have these situations like COVID that's going on right now. I'm leading 2 separate cities, Creative Approach Savannah and Creative Approach Atlanta, all from this little Zoom right here. And it's been a wild ride. And it's been an interesting conversation to have with folks about your feelings are valid. Yes, they are. Let's talk about them. And how do we move forward as a company with you feeling that way? Where do you fit in the company? Where do I fit in the company that way? I don't know if I'm it's just, you've mentioned earlier your granddaughter having empathy. And I feel that empathy has to be injected in times like this. And I feel like, yes, I'm the Pied Piper and people follow, but I'm also empathetic and I understand the ones that aren't really wanting to follow. And I work with them to try to get everybody on the same page.
Well, a word that comes to mind too is for any leader, anytime, but especially now, is the word uncertainty. How do you help your teams in the 2 locations, and some overlap between the 2, through uncertainty, and to be truthful, to be empathetic, and to lead? How do you do that during uncertainty?
Well, the first thing which I've started doing is we do a check-in. Hey, let's all check in. And then if there's something, I need everyone to name it. If something's on your mind, name it. I've learned that naming your uncertainty, naming your fear, addresses it, makes it real to me. If I don't understand it and you tell me your fear, then okay, it's real.
Mm-hmm.
And once we address that, then we talk about how that looks as uncertainty. How can we deal with it? How can we all lift each other up during this time of uncertainty? How do we, and this is another word during this time, pivot. How do we pivot that uncertainty into a positive for you and for us? And like you said earlier, and we're dealing with human emotions that are real. And so, and a lot of businesses don't realize that. I mean, a lot of leaders, I have a friend up here who works for a company in Dallas. The guy said, y'all will all be at work June 1st. And if you're worried about childcare, there's unemployment. To me, that's not leadership. That's not where I want my company to be.
During the COVID crisis, a lot of companies have had to lay off employees. And I'm thinking of your two companies that, to a certain extent, have been dependent on the universities in your midst, or you're in your midst, and they basically shut down on-campus activities. How have you been leading through that?
Luckily, and thank goodness, I like sitting at the computer a lot. Luckily, and I will give the government credit for the unemployment. And I'm thankful that they put it in my hands, because the week before we had to lay people off, because we had to lay 2/3 of our people off. And before we even approached them with the fact that it was going to happen, I went ahead and did all the research and set everyone up that was being laid off on unemployment, and they get to keep their health insurance during this whole time.
Oh, great.
So that they don't have to worry. And I've been doing all the seminars with Mark Butler and the Georgia Department of Labor, and I've been keeping up to date, and I input that every Friday for them. And they're being taken care of. Granted, it's not the most ideal situation, but it's there. And I know that if they get sick, they've got insurance to take care of them. I know that they've got money coming in every Monday, and hopefully things will be different when we reopen. Savannah should reopen next week, but the school's never going to be the same. We know that. So we have to figure out what we're going to do. Atlanta's a bit different because school was only 10% of our business up here.
Right. Okay.
So so Savannah's going to have to pivot more B2B and more to nonprofit.
Yes.
Where Atlanta is we just got to get the businesses back open up here, because nothing's open right now.
Right.
Yeah.
And now we're either still on the leadership topic or starting to move into holistic, but I certainly need to get into your work in, broadly speaking, theology.
Yes.
Education and your practice, your trip to India, and so on. Talk to me please, about what prompted you to take a formal education in theology, because there was probably practicing theology before that. I don't want to put words in your mouth. Talk to us about how theology has played a role in your life: education, leadership, personal.
Okay, I'll start. I'll give you a Cliff Notes version of the first 40 years, and then the past 10 are the best. Okay. So I was born, adopted, grew up Methodist. My adopted parents put me in Bible Baptist school. So I'm very strict, not Southern Baptist, fundamental Baptist. No proms, no wearing pants for women, none of that. Methodist, mixed signals there, and of course, and I never came out. I was always gay. That just was. I remember being 5 years old, listening to them say, what are we going to do with him? Because he is what he is. But they were nice about that. But I had some bad experiences with what the preachers say about me being broken.
Mm.
God does not make broken. I'm sorry. Or what divinity, the universe does not make mistakes. I don't believe that like that. So lots of issues there. And I'm going to be very candid with you right now, because that's what this is about, being real. So in 2010, I was diagnosed with AIDS. And I had skin cancer, Kaposi sarcoma all over my body. And I had a decision then, and this was 2010, mm-hmm. to either die, because I was to that point. When you get AIDS, that means people usually don't get AIDS anymore. They get HIV. I had been to doctors, but I had not been tested for that. I did not know in the state of Georgia you have to ask for that. Mm. But I had one doctor, Dr. Doku in Savannah, that said, we can beat this if you want to live. So, and he said, I'm just going to leave you alone. And I sat in that room and decided, okay, I was given this chance. I was adopted. I was given this chance. I've been doing well. I've got these snakes in my head. I decided to live. Went to Beth Israel Hospital in Boston, got treatment for the KS, then earned myself 2, not 1, but 2 DUIs. Mm. After that second DUI, which was 2013, I had a come to Cale, come to God moment, come to Jesus moment, where I had to figure things out. And I had to figure out what was going on that was so self-deprecating. Why was I trying to sabotage when things were going well? You were around back then. That's when Creative Approach had its brand new building and everything. Mm. So I started this journey at Asbury Memorial with Billy, and he put me on the road to several therapists.
That's Billy Hester.
Billy Hester, yes, absolutely. And 2013, because I called Billy when I got out of jail at I emailed him 2:30 in the morning, and 30 minutes later he emailed me back saying, "Time heals everything. Breathe and come see me Tuesday." So I went and saw him, and we made a plan of attack. And it was more me doing self-discovery, trying to answer the question you asked earlier about what happened in those first 4 years that may be still clicking in there. What's going on with me spiritually? What can I let go that doesn't work anymore? And so that put me on the spiritual path. And that also made me realize at the time I needed to get out of the area that I've been in, which was Savannah. And that's what precipitated Creative Atlanta, was all of that situation and the fact that we were being successful in it, and the banks looked at it and said, well, yeah, this looks good. Mm-hmm. So I got up here to Atlanta, and Emory offers this cognitive-based compassion training program that the Dalai Lama created. It's a $300 course over 6 weeks. Mm-hmm. And so I took it at the Buddhist temple here, and I liked it. I enjoyed the mindfulness, and I enjoyed that. So I thought, let me go investigate Emory a bit, see what's going on there. Because I had no intention of going back to college. None.
Really?
None. And so I went, and I thought, I'd really like to know more about this Buddhism. And I'd really like to learn more globally how everything fits. Because I was so burnt in my head with religion that I needed spirituality. I needed to find some meaning and depth to the spirit. And I wandered into Candler and looked and said, oh, global religions. It's a 2 years master's course. Why not? Let's just try it. So I applied, and a few months later, I got an email saying, you've been accepted. And then I saw the price, and I said, oh my goodness.
Right, I was successful, but not that successful.
Right. So this is the cat. This is what's fun about my life. I've sat here, thought, okay, well, that's nice. I got in. I can just say I got in, but can't go because
You can't hang that on the wall.
no. A few weeks later, Cale, congratulations, you've won the MTS scholarship. The Methodist Church helps pay for Methodists to go to
Wow.
the School of Theology.
Right, and you'd been 2 times over a Methodist, right?
Right. But I didn't apply for it. I just marked, yes, I'm Methodist on the thing.
Oh my.
Right. So I looked at that and I had a conversation with Travis Sawyer and Mark, my business partners, and I said, this is a sign that I've got to do this. I mean, you don't just, scholarships don't drop in your lap like that, especially when you don't apply for them.
Wow.
And so that's what got me on that road there, which started the investigation and discovery into Hinduism and Buddhism and contemplation. And that's what got me into Thomas Merton and the Dalai Lama. And the first year there, we went to India and we toured the whole continent for the most part. We did Syrian Orthodox Christianity there, Muslim, went to Varanasi and watched the Hindus burial. It was beautiful. Next year we went to South Africa and we had audience with Desmond Tutu. And that was a triple moral leadership. And we learned a lot there about leading in diversity like that. And to watch yourself. The biggest thing he told us there was that as hard as they fought for freedom, they've turned into their oppressors. That really stuck with me because it makes me constantly stay on point in my head about, okay, is this the right thing? Am I turning into what I don't want to be? Is power going into my head?
Say that again because it's very important. They said that.
They said that they have turned into their oppressors. The leadership now has turned into what used to oppress them. And it's a sobering thought, but it's the nature of man. And that was most of what the conversation was, that it's the nature of man to do that if you don't have accountability, if you don't check in, if you don't have checks and balances. And because the townships there are thriving now just like they did under apartheid. People are still living in cardboard shacks. It's still, it's heartbreaking, and it's a learning moment. And you want to do something, but I don't know what to do. Same thing. We went to Israel this past year, and it's the opposite there, because you instead of having the rich people everywhere, you have the rich people in the gated townships, and then you have the Palestinians everywhere else. So it's reverse apartheid there. And so I would be foolish to think, spending a week here and a week there would change things, but I can bring back these tools to help build the community we have here. And that's what I've learned from those trips is that, even in India, you have some of the poorest of the poor, and it's legitimatized there because of the caste system, and that's just the Hindu religion. It's there, and it's set that way. And India is now 80% Hindu, and the government is Hindu. And I'm not speaking bad about any of it, but when you have a rigid system like we have here, it's all we can do is I can take what I've learned from Candler, which it's been an amazing journey, and try to apply it to what I do here in Atlanta and Savannah, and hopefully beyond when we grow for the next 50.
So have we stepped into holistic, or what was your intention about holistic?
Okay, I'll get into the holistic now.
And you put that in quotes. So
I did.
I don't even know what question to ask you now. Go right ahead.
Okay, so holistic is, I just wrote, I have 2 degrees now from Emory. Last year was a Master of Theological Studies, and that was on the emerging leadership coming from Trump's base. That was that. I didn't talk much about that, but you can find it on academia.com. this holistic thing is my latest thesis that I did on John Wesley's idea of holistic healing. And what I wanted to talk about with that is, and that goes along with the diagnosis that I told you about and the DUIs and all, and the state of being that I am now, and that where I continue to grow and be healthy. It's called holistic, and you can do it holistic, like HOL or WHOL for the whole, because the treatments that I went through with the psychiatrists and the AA and the group therapy and the state evaluations that they do after your second DUI was all very two-dimensional. It was all flat, didn't dig. I found the holistic part that helped me through the teachings of John Wesley, whereas in order to heal the spirit, you have to do the mind, body, and soul. You have to heal yourself physically, mentally, spiritually, and emotionally. And that's part of that's all of what I discuss in the thesis, but that's part of what I've started discussing in these daily lectures, not lectures that I give, but daily talks that I give, is that I did not start to get myself thinking right until I started moving this butt and exercising, until I started eating properly, and I'm not saying everybody needs to eat like me. I turned vegetarian 3 years ago, which has helped me tremendously, but it's not for everybody. But with everything in play, the mind started clearing up and the spirit started feeling free. And I'm able to connect more with folks. And to me, that's priceless, to be able to be present and connect, because that's what we're about, because we're connected anyway. It's just to realize that connection.
Well, I was going to have to ask you this at some point, but I believe you get up very early every morning.
Yeah.
5 o'clock, something like that. Tell us about that. Most people don't have a heartbeat then.
Yeah, and that's something people laugh at me about that. And there's twofold. A, I like to get up early, and B, I like to be able to get things done while everybody else is asleep. And I get more done between 3 and 7 than most people do all day. And then I can be present and do what I need to do. All of the teaching I do and grading papers that I do is early in the morning. I do an hour meditation every morning. And I promise you, if I miss an hour, the whole day for everyone else is horrible.
And what is your meditation method then? There are many.
There are many. I've started out, believe it or not, with my mala beads that I got from India, rosewood. There's 108 of them. And I used to do that and do a mantra. I still do my mantras, but I do a walking meditation now. I've learned, I've been studying Merton, and I really connect and resonate with the contemplative style, but I still have this restless energy where I need to move around. And some of the Buddhist practices say you have to sit and fold your legs and this, that, and the other. And that's great. But I think everybody is their own vessel, and they need to do it the way they do it. So I walk up and down the Beltline and just meditate and think. And it just does me so much good. It does me so much good. And I've learned the breathing techniques that go with it. So that's a part of all this holistic. I mean, the entire package, not just going to AA and saying, hi, I'm Cale, I'm an alcoholic. There's a lot more to it for me to get fixed than is that.
Sure. Well, let's move on to the why now.
Okay.
I mean, I started out fairly seriously, but a little in jest about, okay, what about the next 50 years? You're about to turn 50. But there is a why now. You've decided to put up this website. It's not that we can't follow you, Cale, because you're on social media and you're very kind of out there person, but I think apparently you want us to focus on some things you're going to be saying or doing on your website. Why now? What is this about?
Well, now I feel that, in fact, I feel this purpose. I feel like the the journey is being realized, and now it's time for me to have people join the journey. It's time for me to build this community that has some of the same problems, whether it's drugs, alcohol, eating, pornography, sex, you name it, whatever it is. These manic hyperactive behaviors or these manic depressive behaviors. I feel that I have not felt such purpose ever in my life until 100 days ago when I started the countdown. And I was able to articulate, and I put it out to the universe. I was like, I'm going to be 50 years old. This has not been a bad 50 years. I would not change a thing. In fact, I would take more chances and learn that I'm enough. But for the next 50, what do I need to do to make a difference in other people's lives? If my mistakes or my learning moments can help just one person, how do I go about doing that? How does this fit into the next 50? And how does it fit in this post-COVID world and in this world full of technology? And things have evolved over the past few months, and here we are. This is something I had thought about when I started the journey after that second DUI in 2014. And I think I told you that I wasn't fully baked yet. It wasn't ready yet. And now it is, because now I am comfortable. I'm not afraid. It used to be I was afraid, and I would hide, and I'd be cringe at everything I said or did, but that's ridiculous. It's part of my story. It's part of my life. And it's time to, and if it can help someone, I don't want anybody to ever feel like they want to kill themselves, like that they don't have hope. And so that's why now, because starting this whole new 50 years is going to be building community and giving back like never before.
I sent you a number of questions, and you've answered most of them in the course of our discussion. Your strongest influencers, you said various entrepreneurs, even Colonel Sanders, Ray Kroc.
That's my first one ever.
Yeah, biggest one ever. Spiritual, Thomas Merton, you mentioned, Richard Rohr, John Wesley, and how you came up with your business ideas. You really addressed most all of these questions. There's one that's really fun. How would your friends and acquaintances describe you? I'm going to read the words, but then let you add on. Determined, crafty, compulsive, caring, unwavering. What a great collection of descriptors.
Yeah.
Tell us more about that.
So let's see here. Determined. Yeah. Once I get an idea, it's hard to sway my mind. I've gotten better at that, though. I don't think it's a negative. I asked several people. I say I need some adjectives, and I need both positive and negatives. Mm-hmm. And these seem to be these ones.
Well, it really shows how unique you are, because I can't think of a lot of people I'd have those several words as descriptors all in one. Right. Word.
But I do connect the word unwavering with stubborn.
Yeah.
I get that. I mean, crafty. I've been clever. You have to be clever in this environment. You have to be able to, be malleable. You have to be able to bend and shape shift and all that. And if you're not determined with your goals, you're not going to meet your goals. You have to be determined. Compulsive now, yes. Compulsive is what got me in a lot of trouble.
Well, that's a double-edged sword. It can
right.
a lot of energy, right? A lot of energy.
Right. Now, it comes in good. Now, like, I'm one of those that I have a feeling in my gut when I meet someone, and especially when I'm hiring a team member at work. I'll just feel it in the gut and I'll go, oh, that one will work here, or
Mm.
that one's just not a good match. So compulsive there, they call me compulsive when I do that, but
Oh,
everyone that I've done is still there.
well, there you go.
Yeah,
That says a lot. There are a couple more that uh, just in our warm up, you said you were going to be ready to address,
okay,
and I'll hit you with the final one.
okay.
Share something about yourself that you want to improve.
Hmm, what did I say with that?
What's left? You've done it all. You've done it all, Cale.
Well, to be honest with you, I don't think I will ever stop improving. I think that I learned a lesson from the people that adopted me. They worked for Atlanta Gas Company and American Cyanamid.
Mhm.
They liked security. They liked, and they encouraged me to first. They encouraged me to go into security, not security business, but they wanted me to go work for someone, have benefits and all that.
Mm.
And they were absolutely miserable. They were
Mm.
the most miserable human beings when it came. They were not happy. They when they weren't happy, they would let me know that them adopting me took away everything that they had planned, and that made me think about the only person that can make me happy is me. The
Mm.
only people that I can ever accuse of not making me happy is going to be me. I don't
Mm.
ever want to put anybody in that position.
Mhm.
And so I've taken it to a different level, and that is to constantly learn,
Mhm.
constantly try to improve, constantly try to help others. In a few weeks, I start a PhD program in organizational leadership.
I saw that, and it's where out in the it's a university
Indiana
out
Wesleyan,
west. Where
yep,
is?
Indiana Wesleyan University, yes. It was supposed to be there, but with COVID, it's going to be like you and I right now.
Okay.
But what I want to improve on most is connectivity with others and to be even more present when people are when I'm with someone, because I just finished a round of, I'm a chaplain now at Emory Midtown, and it's such a reward for me to be able to go into those rooms and just be 100% present with someone and to see that light and that in an otherwise such dark place. It's just been so wonderful to see that. And
Mhm.
so I've taken that and I've been applying that in every aspect of the life. And that's really the main thing, because I think leaders, and if you're going to lead, you must be present.
That's well said. And say again what this other doctorate is and
It's a PhD in organizational leadership.
organizational.
I think I'm going to be delving more into Goldman's emotional intelligence theory and all that. So
Okay, well,
excited about that.
we'll certainly be catching up with you again and again. And then the final is describe a scene of your vision for the future. It can be global, it can be local, it can be about yourself, maybe some of each. What do you in going into these next 50 years?
Mhm.
Maybe plural to describe a few scenes that you envision coming up.
Okay, I'll do several different avenues. We'll do a creative approach first. Creative approach in the next 50 years, I see it as a major catalyst for change in larger cities, in positioning itself more in urban areas to
Mhm.
help revitalize and generate what's lacking right now. I can see that, and I can see that building with the creative cares, that area. With me personally, with what I want to do with this launch of this website, I would like to see this as a legacy of help and healing for people, of another safe space where people can come and share, where I can learn, where others can learn, where we can all collaborate so that we can help end some of this unnecessary suffering that's out there that we put ourselves through.
Mm.
I see that as far as what I'm doing with my education, I want to be able to show others that it's never too late. It's never too late to keep going, because if I'm going to be 60, I'm going to be 60 regardless. Might as well be doing something with it. I mean, everything that I've gone to school for, I'm using. I'm absolutely using. I teach marketing. I'm working as a chaplain. So that's the theology, the seminary part. And I thoroughly plan on, and I'll tell you this now, because the thought has crossed my mind recently, now that I'm shedding all of this and being very forthright with everything. I am not putting it out of the possibilities of being a leader in politics, or locally, state, or nationally. We'll just have to see how that goes. I don't know. I just don't know.
Well, you're a native Georgian, and there's a lot that's going to be changing here that
There is.
that where your skills and talents and literally global view could be very, very helpful, all the way from what was formerly a sleepy little town of Savannah to Atlanta, which is really one of the metropolitan capitals now.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And beyond.
So nothing's off the table.
All right. Well, Cale, I thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to get you to know you better, and therefore your public at large will get to know you better. Let's stay tuned, and maybe let's do this once every quarter, or
I would love that. I would love that. Yes.
a year. Yeah, because I think we've started something here.
I think so, and I would love that. Let's do that. And I thank you for your time and patience.